So this year is about no longer just giving lip service to our spiritual teachings, but truly bringing it into action in all aspects of our lives. And it's a two-pronged sort of thing. It's inner action that we must attend to first, and that's cultivating all of those qualities of the divine within ourselves, whether it is love, compassion, peace, um, joy, harmony. Those inner qualities are so essential to the outpouring or the inspiration of action that truly makes a difference in our own lives and in others' lives. So, spirituality in action, I'm going to keep bringing us back to that because it's so easy just to spout off spiritual wisdom. But it's another thing to actually be it and put it into practice. And we all, every one of us, I don't care what your background is or what your challenges are, we all have the capacity to expand in all of those qualities. So this month, we're focusing on the quality of oneness, to really begin to embrace that in our consciousness, this idea of oneness. And then from that comes the inspired action that is about seeking the common good. Seeking the common good, looking out for the interests of all, not just our own interest. And our own interest is important. I don't want to diminish that. But what I'm saying is we begin to take a broader perspective, how my interests and all of our interests converge and how we can work together. Because what we say over and over again is we're here to be the presence of love and to co-create heaven on earth. And then the overall Centers for Spiritual Living intention is to co-create a world that works for everyone, not just some, but everyone. That's a big vision. But yet we know it is vision that pulls us forward. It keeps us on track so that we keep checking in with ourselves and are we really moving in that direction in our thoughts, in our words, and in our actions? So today I'm going to be sharing this concept called our shared humanity. And the source book that we're using this month is His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. His beautiful book. He's written quite a few books, but the one in particular that I finally finished reading, and it is so powerful, it's called Ethics for a Whole World. Beyond religion, he says, ethics for a whole world. So his intention is to unite everyone in a common ethics for the whole world, no matter whether you have religion or not. His intention is really to show that this thing called compassion, which we can all cultivate, is something that anyone can do. It doesn't matter whether you have a religious background or what your religious background is or what your spiritual background is, or even if you are an atheist. His intention, he's very clear. He wants to show the world that these principles, this principle of love that becomes compassion, which is love in action, are so essential for the thriving of our humanity, for the survival of it, and for the thriving of it, and for the care of the earth and all of its creatures. That this is an essential quality. And I know because all of you are here, I know you buy in with me. That we're all in this together. But this concept of shared humanity, it's a really good opportunity for us to check ourselves. Where have we possibly been leaving someone out? And we know because those are the people that we've judged. Those are the people that when we get into thinking of us and them, when we get into that kind of thinking, we know that we're not in the shared humanity consciousness. It's okay that we have different perspectives, that we have different political views. That's okay. What we're talking about is returning over and over and over again to the concept of a shared humanity. Because it's this, we share the same spiritual and biological origin. We are all made of the same divine stuff, the same divine presence, right? We share, and the scientists have shown us, we share a common quantum field, right? That we could call the universal mind of God, or we could just call it the quantum field. It doesn't matter, but we share that. We share the same spaceship Earth, right? We're on this spaceship hurling through space. We're all on this planet, this beautiful, pristine planet that provides us with all the nourishment and everything that we need. Everything is here. And how precious it is. And I know the astronauts, when they were up on the moon or even just up in outer space and looking down at this planet, particularly from the moon, and seeing it off there just balanced in the sky. Can you imagine that? There's a powerful sense that we are truly all in this together. And you can't see the divisions between all the countries, right? Those are just made up by the human mind. We're all on this beautiful, pristine planet together. And yet, here's the challenge, and Einstein put it so beautifully. He said that we have a tendency to see ourselves as separate from each other. He calls it an optical delusion of consciousness. An optical delusion of consciousness. He said this delusion is a kind of a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole nature and the whole of nature in all of its beauty. A heart as wide as the world, right? That's what he's calling for. This is Einstein, and there was a quote that I had run across too by Charles Darwin, who said, "Compassion and love are the most noble qualities, and loving all creatures and caring for all creatures is one of the most noble quality, or is the most noble quality of humankind." So even our scientists, as well as our mystics, understand the importance of this embracing all of life with our love and our care. So here's the thing. The more that we become aware, the more we contemplate this idea of shared humanity and actually shared life, if you want to include the plants and the animals and the minerals and all of that, the more we contemplate this shared humanity, and this is the consciousness of oneness that I'm talking about, the more we find that our hearts open to match that concept, that idea, that's the embodiment of it. As our hearts begin to expand in love and compassion, we begin to be this beautiful inlet and outlet of the divine flow of love. And it not only spurs us into action to alleviate the suffering of others, it also contributes to genuine, lasting happiness. Genuine, lasting happiness. Because think about it, when we give love, when we take action in compassion, and compassion has two aspects. It has the empathy, where our hearts are touched, and it has the desire to alleviate suffering, to take action, some sort of action. So it's the law of giving and receiving that we always talk about here, right? And we find out that truly giving is receiving. It's one and the same. It benefits the giver and the receiver. And this is the fulfillment of that beautiful golden rule that we learned way back when we were young. The golden rule: treat others as you would have them treat you. which is truly when you treat others as you would have them treat you, you're treating yourself pretty well too. It goes hand in hand. The Dalai Lama speaks to this thing called compassion by first pointing out a mother's compassion for her child. And that the mother, it's biologically built in, or it's an inherited tendency to care for the child. And it's unconditional. And even when the child acts out and goes crazy and says, "I hate you," and all the things that children can do, the mother or the father still love the child deeply, even though they give consequences for the behavior, right? So that kind of compassion, then, the Dalai Lama and other great beings on this planet call for expanding that same kind of love that a mother or a father would offer their children to all of humanity, not just our little circle of friends, but all of humanity. Because in truth, another way that we share commonality in humanity is all of us aspire to happiness and we are avoiding suffering. So when we help each other with this and we collaborate and cooperate to further happiness of one another, we are working together to co-create that world that works for everyone. There's a story of a woman who goes to the gates of heaven and asks for God's help. And she says, "Who is going to fix all these problems on the planet?" And God replies, "I sent you." It's a continued reminder that it is up to us. It's not up to somebody else out there, but it's up to us, each one of us, to keep checking in. What is mine to do? When we each do our part, then it's one of those things. Many hands makes the task lighter. When we all do our part, then it isn't so overwhelming for any few people. So the more of us that open our hearts to compassion and that begin to act on that, just think about it. If everyone on the planet would wake up and begin to see our shared humanity, begin to understand that and comprehend that, and begin to naturally just reach out and support each other, how powerful that would be. And so all it takes is each one of us, one person, one of us, having a little shift and bringing a little bit more compassion forward can set what I'm seeing is just a catalytic chain of events that supports others. I saw actually a little video, an iTunes video, where it shows one person helping another, and that person then goes and helps the next person. Anybody seen that? Have you seen that? The next person helps the other, and it just shows this chain of events of how one loving act inspires others to take the next act. It's that pass it forward concept. So again, compassion. So okay, again, let me get back to where I was going. So biological compassion is a built-in capacity. The term that the Dalai Lama uses for the kind of compassion that we're talking about, as wide as the world, he calls it universal compassion. And he said that is something that we can cultivate. We can intentionally cultivate through our spiritual practice, through continuing to contemplate shared humanity and our shared experience, the interconnectedness of all life. Universal compassion, though, I was talking with Dan about this, it may sound unrealistic to you. Like, how can I possibly love everybody and the whole world? Because maybe one of the things that comes to mind to you is, wow, that sounds overwhelming. If I would open my heart to everyone. But the Dalai Lama has a beautiful answer for that. He said, Being compassionate actually gives us energy. It gives us purpose. And because we are giving of love and love is not depleted, it means that we are growing in love. We are more filled with love. That means our bodies are healthier and more vibrant because the cells in our body respond to love. It means that we that 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 so we are benefited as well as others are benefited. And so um, think of yourself and maybe some of the things that you've done that have come from compassion and the effect that it's had on you. You know, I was thinking about Michelle, my daughter Michelle, who's here today, telling me that she offered counseling and support at a shelter in the aftermath of the Santa Rosa fire. Powerful experience, huh, Michelle? Yeah. Being able to support others who had lost their homes in the fire. I think about Nancy Zippy and her big heart and the support that she's offered over the years of Friendship House, and has gotten all of us motivated to give to bring toiletries and things like that she takes over to the Friendship House. And what does that do for you, Nancy? Doesn't that lift you to know you're helping others? Yeah. Hmm. Nice, nice. Right. Those are the people that run the Friendship House. Right. Beautiful. Um, and I think of our practitioners who have dedicated their lives to service. And and I know myself, having gone through practitioner training and really the work that I do now as a minister, uh, every time that I sit down and pray with someone or I offer spiritual guidance, I'm uplifted. I know that it heals and supports me too. There's this beautiful thing that happens as well as supporting others. And so I honor our practitioners and the way in which all of you serve our community. So there are many ways that we can do our part to alleviate suffering. Yours may be very unique from anybody else's, but you will know what is yours to do. That's what we do when we go into in meditation and we listen deeply. We ask what is ours to do. The other resistance to the idea of universal compassion is sometimes people say, well, does being compassionate mean that somebody's going to get away with something, that justice won't be served? And the Dalai Lama's answer to that is no. He said, an unjust situation demands a strong response. So and you think of Martin Luther King, you think of Gandhi, these are people of deep compassion and deep love who took nonviolent action to stand up for what was right, to eliminate unjust systems, and to bring forth that which is just and fair. And in terms of breaking the law, if someone is truly breaking the law that's violating somebody else's rights, the Dalai Lama said, you can still be compassionate with that person, which is actually a very healthy thing to do, is you don't want to seek revenge and hold a lot of anger and resentment, because we know that destroys our body temple, right? Our mind and our body temple. But we do want to follow through with consequences. That's what our laws and our courts are all about. So justice and compassion are not in conflict, because we're talking about separating the deed from the doer. We can love the doer, have compassion for the doer, while taking care, giving consequences for the deed. And so he also stands for offering rehabilitation of criminals, so that it doesn't happen again, so they have a chance for a better life. Practicing compassion then goes hand in hand with forgiveness. Yes? I think about the story that the Dalai Lama told about how he and his fellow Tibetans continue to cultivate compassion and forgiveness for the Chinese who have persecuted them over the years and persecuted their people, and that's why they're in exile in North India. And he talks about how this field of forgiveness and this field of compassion, and that things happen that to us would seem rather miraculous. And one example is that the son of a Chinese officer who was involved in the persecution of Tibetans sent his son to speak with the Dalai Lama. He was elderly, he was not able to make the journey, so he sent his son to the Dalai Lama to apologize and to offer regret for what he had done. And so you can imagine how that, that those kinds of things lift up, those who receive the apologies. There was some reconciliation that was offered. So again, it's important to consciously develop compassion toward those who have wronged us for our own health and well-being, and for also opening up a field. We're all connected energetically, right? For opening up a field of possibility for love to be birthed or healing to take place between us and others. Okay, so justice then, real justice, which is free of revenge, based on compassion, goes hand in hand then with compassion. So let's just bring it around. And so I'd like to just bring this to a conclusion by simply saying that our oneness, our shared humanity, is something that we can contemplate. It's an inner quality, an awareness that we can contemplate, out of which is born compassion. And from this is born compassionate action. And so then we fulfill that wonderful thing called spirituality in action. So let's take a moment, close our eyes, and deepen into this awareness that truly there is only one life, one source, one presence, one power, and that power and presence is God, the infinite almighty presence. God as the unmanifest and God as the manifest, realizing the universe is the body of God. We are the body of God, individualized, and our uniqueness and our individualized gifts that we have to give together, as we work together, as we collaborate to bring this compassion and this love into expression in our daily lives, as we interact with others through our thoughts, words, and actions, that we truly together co-create heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone. And for this I give my thanks. I am so grateful. I release this word into the universal law of mind, and I invite us all to say together, yes, and so it is. Thank you.